Here follows an extract from my book Artful Designs, available from Amazon. Chapter 19, Part 2. Beth had been a little nervous when she first joined the group, but the ladies, and the gentlemen too, of the Historical Stitching Society were friendly and welcoming, and Beth was soon at her ease. Some of the members worked on smaller individual projects, making outfits for local historical groups, or small items of decorative embroidery for houses of historical interest. Not surprisingly, many original specimens had not survived the rigours of time, and so replicas were always in demand to lend an authentic air for visiting enthusiasts. Beth joined this group as she worked to complete her own embroidery, but couldn't refrain from frequent visits over to the large table, where a group worked in collaboration on a larger project. On the table lay a large canvas, on which the William Morris acanthus pattern was slowly taking shape. Each worked on a section that would gradually meet in the middle. In between the general chatter, reference was made to tension, stitch formation, and other technical issues to ensure that the separate efforts would create a unified whole. Sally wandered in and out throughout the evening, but came and sat with the group during the allocated tea break. Beth had gathered that Theo and Conrad were in the building, but that Hyacinth was not. "Where is Hyacinth?" Beth asked. "I thought she came to help with the refreshments." "She's at home ill," said Sally. "In fact, that's why I'm here. You'd have been enjoying homemade cakes if Hyacinth was in charge. As it is, you'll have to make do with a packet of custard creams." "Do you know what's the matter?" "I don't know exactly what's wrong, but I gather she's really poorly." Conrad had come to help Theo look over the new security arrangements, but he's dashing off as soon as he's done. I don't think she's well at all. Beth really wanted to offer Sally her sympathy over her troubles with Theo. It was obvious that, but for Hyacinth's illness, she wouldn't have been there at all. Sally did little to hide her disgust at being there with Theo out of hours. However, Sally was a proud woman, and Beth suspected that she wouldn't appreciate sympathy, and so quietly went back to her stitching. Drew wasn't due in the gallery, and so on the following morning Beth left him to his breakfast and drove to see Hyacinth, planning to meet him back at home for lunch. Conrad made a pot of lemon and ginger tea and carried it with him as he escorted Beth to his wife, who was in bed but eagerly awaiting the visit from her friend. "Beth, I'm so pleased to see you," said Hyacinth. "How are you?" asked Beth. "You do look poorly. Can I do anything to help?" "Just you being here is a big help. I'm so glad you came." "Well, if it's as easy as that, I'm entirely at your disposal. This is the easiest nursing I've ever done. Sitting, chatting and drinking tea is no hardship to me. But it does take out of your time, and I am grateful." Beth realised that such a small gesture, just visiting a friend, might not be such a small thing after all. She had forgotten just how isolated Hyacinth was, because she never made any fuss about it. Conrad was out so much with all of his business concerns. Her son lived abroad, and her house, beautiful as it was not surrounded by friendly neighbours who nipped in for a cup of sugar or a brew and a quick chat. "What's the problem?" asked Beth. "Do you have the flu or sickness?" Hyacinth was reluctant to answer at first, and so Beth urged her friend to make use of her in any way possible. "I'm afraid you're in a rush and I don't want to keep you," said Hyacinth. Beth looked alarmed, but Hyacinth quickly dispelled any significant worry. "Oh, it's nothing sinister. In fact, I feel quite stupid when I think of saying it out loud." "Don't be silly. Just tell me and we'll see what we can do." "The doctor has just left and he thinks I'm exhausted mentally more than physically, although there are physical symptoms. He says that I'm suffering from stress. How embarrassing." "It's not embarrassing at all. You carry so much on your shoulders and you never complain or share the load. It's time you made a bit more use of your friends. You do so much for us, it's only fair we help you in return. Can you articulate what it is that you're worrying about?" "I know it sounds silly. Of course, It isn't anything executive. Conrad deals with all that sort of thing and he doesn't get stressed. Nevertheless, I do think that the doctor is right. I think it's mostly to do with all this business at the gallery. Beth nodded her agreement and now fully understood the foundation of her friend's troubles. It's bringing us all down, said Beth. Yes, but not everybody is married to a convicted criminal. He's hardly in this category. I know that, and I'm glad that you think so too, but he's bound to be under suspicion to those who don't properly know him. Beth blushed a little to know that her brother was numbered among that group. Conrad knows it too, continued Hyacinth. I can tell it's getting to him. He tries to hide it, but he just isn't himself at all. He's really on edge. Poor Conrad, he's got enough to worry about without all of this. What other worries? Can you tell me? Conrad says it's all in a day's work and nothing to worry about, but his business interests aren't doing half so well as they should. I suppose that business is bound to have its ups and downs, but it's a pretty steep down, and it's getting to us both. All this trouble at the gallery just adds insult to injury, because that's normally where Conrad would go to relax. That's funny, it's where Drew goes to work. How strange life is. Conrad always says that it does him good to feed his mind after staring at mathematical figures all day, and so he goes to see artistic figures to put him back on an even keel. All this worry has made me ill, and that's doing nobody any good. But I can't help worrying. It's silly of me to have let it get me down so much. Hyacinth tried to hide her embarrassment by covering her face with her hands. Nonsense, said Beth. We're not machines. Drew and I can barely concentrate on our work. Drew's just glad that Conrad isn't pushing for this artwork, though now I know why, I'm sorry about that. Drew just can't seem to get down to work. I actually found him crying at his easel the other day because it's all too much for him. We both had a bit of a weep in the end. At least Drew knows he's not under suspicion. Your brother is the investigating officer and that must be a comfort to you both. I'm not sure that's entirely the case. In fact, that in itself is an added pressure. It's all a matter of perspective. Yes, and when our sense of perspective breaks down, it seems that we quickly follow suit. At this point, Hyacinth could no longer hold back the tears. After more tea and chat, the friends exchanged hugs and encouragement until, with further promise of support, Beth said goodbye. Feeling glad that she was to be welcomed back at home by the familiar face of her husband, Beth walked expectantly towards the house. Instead of being greeted by a hug and a smile, she found that the back door was locked. Once inside the kitchen, the only welcome that awaited her was a hastily written note. Gone to the Whitworth, tell you when I get back. The lack of any preface or kiss at the end told her that all was not well. Other than that, she could only wonder and wait. For the full book of Artful Designs, available in paperback or as an ebook, follow the link in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.